What a day! Aaron walked to his house in an amazing mood, smiling ear to ear as he set foot on his driveway. It was a wild day for Aaron, a day that he would never forget. He was in disbelief how someone's life could transform in a matter of hours. My life has changed, Aaron thought to himself. He felt like he was reborn, like he was a little boy again. He couldn't wait to pack all his belongings and move out, leaving his unfortunate past behind. He jingled his keys in glee as he stepped onto the stairs leading to his front door. As he approached the door, he stopped short. The door creaked open and was severely battered down. Confused, Aaron looked around, checking his surroundings for a clue as to what had happened. "What the heck?" Aaron mumbled to himself as he opened the door. His heart skipped a beat, and his palms started to sweat as he laid his eyes on the horrific state of his house. The nightmare that any homeowner could have imagined became a reality for Aaron. Someone invaded Aaron's home, and judging by the living room's conditions, they weren't in a good mood. The living room was an absolute mess. It looked dead and wasn't appropriate for any living at all. His laptop and radio were destroyed, and his phone and television were missing. His precious belongings belonged to someone else now, someone who could not appreciate them like he did. His joyous mood from earlier deteriorated, and his smile turned into a shocked grimace. His realistic hopes from before became wishful thinking at that point. "Hey!" A voice boomed across the room. A man in a black ski mask entered the room, pointing a gun at Aaron's chest. As soon as Aaron laid his eyes on the masked man, he knew exactly who he was and what he was doing in the house. "Put your hands up!" the masked man yelled. Aaron could recognize that husky voice from anywhere. He obliged to the man's forceful command, slowly raising his hands. "What'd you do to all my stuff?" asked Aaron in a calming tone. "Shut up!" said the masked man. "Did you throw it out, or are you going to keep it?" "I said shut up!" screamed the masked man. His voice was starting to shake. If you make any sudden movements, I will shoot." Aaron stayed calm. He stared at the gun the masked man was pointing at him. The man's trembling fingers made the gun look less threatening. The masked man slowly moved towards Aaron, still pointing the gun directly at Aaron's chest. He didn't make an attempt to avoid the mess, purposely stepping on all of Aaron's belongings. Aaron cursed in his head as the man crushed his beloved Nirvana CD. "Where is it, Aaron?" The masked man's voice turned tender and soft, almost like he was trying to serenade Aaron. "Where'd you put it?" Aaron smiled. No way he was gonna go out like this. Some sorry chump threatening his life with a rusty semi-automatic. He was the one that should be threatening him. How badly did he want to punch him in the face and point the gun back at him? The masked man didn't even look like he knew how to use a gun. He looked like someone who had trouble playing Call of Duty on his PlayStation. Aaron, on the other hand, was no stranger to using guns. It was basically an extension to his arm at that point. It was second nature to him. "Answer me!" yelled the masked man. The hand on the gun looked more firm. "Where'd you put the money?" The man's breath stank. Aaron almost wanted to offer him a mint or something. Has this guy ever heard of mouthwash before? "I swear I will shoot you if you don't answer me right now," the man exclaimed. The masked man's nervousness quickly subsided. In seconds, his demeanor changed completely. Aaron was now the one who was trembling. Aaron took a deep breath and cleared his throat. "It doesn't matter," Aaron replied frankly, with a bit of attitude. "What?" confusedly asked the masked man. "What are you talking about?" I'm done with this whole thing. I'm a changed man now," said Aaron. "And the money?" "Don't tell me." "Yeah, the money's gone." With the gun still pointing at Aaron, the man slowly took off his mask. His sweaty, bald, wrinkly head was dark red from frustration. He looked like the apple Aaron ate for lunch that day. The man breathed heavily, intensely staring at Aaron. Aaron knew that he had betrayed him, and he was also aware that betrayal and guns weren't the best combination. Maybe he can understand, Aaron thought to himself. Maybe I can convince him that this is the wrong business for both of us, and that there's a better life out there. If I can change, why can't he? With no remorse, the masked man pulled the trigger. Aaron collapsed as soon as the bullet hit his chest. puncturing his skin, shattering his ribs, and piercing his heart. Aaron helplessly laid on the floor, dying without the chance to live his life the way he was meant to. The masked man stepped over him and walked out the door, leaving Aaron to bleed out. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon when Aaron met Stanley. Aaron was riding the bus when Stanley happened to sit in the seat in front of him. It was serendipity at its finest. Aaron had just changed into a new shirt, as the shirt he was wearing that morning was full of blood. Constantly changing into clean clothes were just one of the subtleties of being a hitman. Large pockets were also a necessity, as an envelope filled with money was shoved in his jean pocket. However, Aaron was starting to get tired of his job. The effects were starting to take a toll on him. For a month now, he thought about quitting, but he couldn't betray his boss. Aaron was anxious that afternoon, as he had to deliver the envelope to his boss at 1:30. His boss had a temper, and did not like it when people were late for scheduled meetings. Plus, Aaron had delayed this meeting for almost a month, as he had secretly been spending the money on some new accessories. All of a sudden, the bus stopped moving. All the passengers got up to see what the commotion was. The bus driver went outside to check what happened. It was a flat tire, and it would take about an hour to get a new one and replace the flat. Aaron pounded his fist into the seat in frustration, knowing that his boss would be royally ticked off if he was late. All the passengers got off the bus and walked around the area. There wasn't much around. The only thing that was relatively close was a church. While most of the passengers stayed and waited for the bus to be repaired, Stanley went inside the church. Out of boredom, Aaron followed him. Aaron wasn't religious at all. He hadn't stepped foot inside a church since he was a child, but anything beat standing around waiting for a new tire to be delivered. The two men entered the church. Stanley walked with a confident poise, while Aaron followed him keenly. Aaron immediately sat down on one of the pews and kneeled down to pray. Stanley looked around and saw Aaron standing awkwardly at the back. He motioned for Aaron to come join him. Aaron shook his head and resisted, but Stanley got up and adamantly waved his arm, the universal sign for inclusion. "Come on, don't be shy," said Stanley. Aaron gave in. He graciously walked down the aisle and kneeled down beside Stanley. Aaron looked up at the altar and decided to actually try praying. However, he was having trouble starting a prayer. "I can't believe I'm getting prayer block right now," thought Aaron. "How can I pray when I have absolutely nothing to pray for?" He looked at Stanley, who had his eyes closed and was silently mouthing words to himself. Stanley could feel Aaron stare at him and sense that he was having trouble speaking to the Lord. "Pray for your family, your friends, future endeavors. After you do that, tell the Lord your sins," explained Stanley. Aaron did what Stanley told him to do, except for the sins part. How could he tell God that he killed 20 people this past year? Also, he didn't necessarily regret murdering those people. He thought death was the proper punishment for those degenerates. Anyone who messes with the boss has to deal with me. That was the mindset Aaron had, the mindset that he desperately wanted to escape. After a couple minutes, Aaron sat back down on the bench, waiting for Stanley to finish. While he was waiting, a homeless man entered the church and started to pray near the altar. Stanley sat down with Aaron after his prayer was done. They both looked at the homeless man, both feeling sorry for his predicament. "Looking at homeless people, you only see their cover," sighed Stanley. "You don't get to read their story." Aaron listened to Stanley's wistful words as the homeless man walked away from the altar, slowly making his way out of the church. "Whenever I look at the homeless, I always remind myself to take advantage of the opportunity that is in front of me," Stanley continued. "That man probably wishes that he had the life that I currently have. The best way to honor his wishes is to live life with purpose and respect." Aaron silently stared at the altar in front of him, processing the words Stanley had just spoken. "Live life with purpose" were the words that caught his attention. Truthfully, Aaron didn't care about the rest of what Stanley had said. Aaron just wanted a fresh start, and those 4 words spoken by Stanley gave Aaron every incentive to do so. Without saying goodbye to Stanley, Aaron hurriedly left the church and checked to see if the bus was running. He wanted to reach home as soon as possible. Aaron had a plan. He was going to use the money from the envelope to start a new life in Europe. wiping his slate clean. He couldn't care about his boss and his criminal connections. He was sure that his wrinkly, bald boss was never going to find him. While the old bus was still under repair, another bus was picking up passengers, as the flat tire restoration was taking too long. Aaron ran to the bus. However, as he was about to hop on, the homeless man that Aaron saw earlier approached him. "Hello, fine sir," said the homeless man. "Would you mind lending me some money? I seem to be short on the bus fare." Aaron patted his pocket. The envelope was still firmly wedged in there. He looked into the homeless man's eyes. "No, sorry." Aaron walked onto the bus. He couldn't wait to get home and put his plan in action. It was a new beginning for Aaron. Throughout the whole bus ride there, he was confident that starting a new life in Europe was the best decision that he could have made. As he got off the bus and started his walk home, he was convinced that tomorrow would be different from all the days prior, and that he could live life with purpose for the first time in a while. What a day, Aaron thought to himself. What a day indeed.